Again, I would like to recognize that our work and the work of our choirs takes place on traditional Indigenous territories across Ontario. We also wish to acknowledge that Choirs Ontario's offices in Toronto are located on the traditional Indigenous territory of the Huron, Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and most recently, the territory of the Mississaugas of the New Credit. Whether you are a chorister in a choir or a conductor, I think we can all agree that these last 3 months have been difficult on many, many fronts. For many of us, it is a choir rehearsal at the end of a long or challenging day that is the balm that helps us to feel connected and creates a space to recenter ourselves. The near future remains unknown as we learn about this virus, how it affects us, and what this means for returning to in-person choir rehearsals. It's for this reason we thought that an event that recognizes and names these challenges might be helpful. Choirs Ontario is an arts service organization that is hosting today's session. Our mission is to foster vibrant, inclusive, and accessible choral communities by providing programs, services, and resources, creating opportunities, and engaging Ontario's diverse population in the transformative power of choral music. We are pleased to be able to offer this event today free of charge and open to anyone. If you are not yet a member of Choirs Ontario, we encourage you to become an individual member. And I encourage you to consider membership to help support events like these by visiting our website at choirsontario.org/membership. At this time, I would like to introduce you to our past president, Dr. Elaine Choi. She is the Director of Music at Timothy Eaton Memorial Church in Toronto and a sessional lecturer at the Faculty of Music of the University of Toronto, and she will introduce today's guest speaker. Over to you, Elaine.
Thank you, Mark. Hello, everyone. Thank you very much for joining us today. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker of today's session, Allison Villa. As a registered psychotherapist and a relationship expert, Allison has been featured on breakfast television, CBC radio, Global News Radio, as well as numerous podcasts and blogs, especially as of late. She's the founder of House and Hook, an online platform specializing in family relationships, providing virtual therapy sessions, online courses, retreats, and even a monthly membership program. Allison teaches people to live with intention and to use effective strategies to connect with each other. In today's case, not only in our immediate family circle, but also with our choir families. I first met Allison while working as faculty members at the National Music Camp. Allison is a retired professional singer and dancer and came from a musical family with her mother, who is an active chorister. Hence, we strongly believe she's a perfect choice for today's session, How to Feel Better When You Miss Your Choir. So without further ado, I'm going to pass the spotlight on to our guest speaker today, Allison Villa.
Hello, and thank you for that beautiful introduction, Elaine. It's so nice to be here to have this conversation with all of you music lovers, and this is really an important conversation to have about how not being able to sing together with our community, our choir family, how it impacts you emotionally. And we really do need to give that space. I'm so happy to be able to start this conversation with you today. So how today's going to work is we're going to just chat about 4 different sections. We're going to talk about the positive effects of singing, the stages, the emotional stages that you might be going through right now, and why Zoom calls may not be fulfilling you the way you expected, and then what to do, how to take action and take care of yourself. And as I'm going through this conversation, I am going to invite you, I'll give you some little prompts to share how you're feeling in the chat, and then at times I will invite some of you to share your experience. And when you're doing that, I just want to remind you to be mindful of the time, because we're going to try and keep this within 45 minutes, because of course we value your time, and but we want to hear from you, and sharing each other's experience helps to normalize how we're all feeling. So to begin, I wanted to talk about the positive effects of singing. So It's incredibly fascinating. Music has been in my life forever, but as I was preparing to do this workshop with you, I thought, oh, I'm just going to do some research and do some history and explore the history of choral singing. And what I found really fascinating, and I'm sure you know this already, but that choral singing and singing together was how humans are herd animals, and that's how we would gather around the fire and we would sing together. And so singing was part of communities before singing became something that was just for people who were good at singing, right? So singing was something that bonded communities, whether they were really strong singers or not really strong singers. So it's such a reflection of the power of coming together. And singing has always been that for humans. So it's a really interesting thing to note that is part of our primal nature, is to come together. And that also in history, that was something that was key to bringing us together as well. And when you look at the research, our brains show feelings of belonging and mood elevation when we are singing in a community. So biologically, the research shows the positive effects of singing in a community. And then neurological research also suggests that our brains release oxytocin when we sing with others. It increases serotonin, which is an antidepressant, and dopamine, which is pleasure, right? So there's so many amazing things that happen in the brain and the body when you sing, specifically in a group of people. And I'm sure you all feel that way, but it's really neat to understand the biology and the science behind why you're feeling that way. It's because all of these amazing hormones are being released when you are singing and when you are singing with people. So that increase in oxytocin, that decreases stress and anxiety. So if you're singing, once, twice, 3 times a week, even every day, that really is affecting your stress level. And so you might be noticing some shifts in yourself now that you have not had access to that in the same way as before. What's also really interesting about singing, that it's an aerobic activity, because singing increases the amount of oxygenated blood that goes to your brain, and that regulates your heart rate. So it's a form of meditation, like when we sing, it's all about the breath, all about having controlled breath and being intentional about our breathing, which is very, very similar to meditation. So whether or not you realized it, singing is an act of meditation. So it's very interesting to look at the whole picture of what happens to your brain and your body in this activity that you love so much. It's benefiting you positively in so many ways. And of course, increasing that sense of social well-being as well, being with your community, being with people, feeling a sense of teamwork, of accomplishing something together. And I love this. When I was chatting with Elaine, she was so excited because I came across this fact that said that research done for the advocacy group Choral Canada suggests 3.5 million Canadians currently lend their vocal cords to a choir. So 3.5 million Canadians enjoy singing together. It's so powerful. There's so many people across the country who come together to sing. And apparently, there's 3 times more children under 18 who sing in a choir than play hockey. So, and there's 50% more adult choral singers than adult hockey players. And that's according to the National Choral Census. So it's really, really amazing to see the positive impacts, the positive effects of singing on everyone from all stages of life. And now I want to just turn over to you and ask, how does singing make you feel? If you could just type in the chat a feeling, what's the feeling that it brings out in you? Is it joy? Is it connection? I'd love to hear what your experience of singing is. Oh, I love these: connection, calm, joyful, empowerment, focused, harmony. Oh yes, these are all so beautiful. Feeds my soul, uplifted, happiness, connection. Oh, these are beautiful. Calm, community, alive. Yes. Balanced, beauty, exhilaration, love, satisfying. Keep them coming. These are so good. Expression of emotions. Yes, it's an outlet, isn't it? Accepted, a joyful escape from the world. Oh, I'm going to expand on that later. Yes. Your headaches disappear. Yes, yes. A part of something beautiful, greater than the sum of its parts. That's so beautiful and so true. Creativity brings me to tears. Uplifting, intrigue. Oh my gosh, like so many feelings, so many, always lifts my mood. Yes. Oh, these are so beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing. And so knowing and understanding how positively singing is in your life, how good it makes you feel, now we can look at what's happening in this moment over the past 3 or 4 months when this activity, this practice of singing was abruptly ended. And there's a lot of grief around that. And so what we're going to chat about right now are the stages of grief. So first I want to acknowledge that everyone on the entire planet, when this pandemic started, and all of us right now experience what we're all experiencing together worldwide, is grief. We are experiencing the grief of the life that we once knew, and we're experiencing the grief because it was also very abrupt. It was a change in the world, to our lifestyles, to our lives, that happened very quickly without much preparation, right? Things happened quite quickly for most of us, right? Like 1 week we were doing all the things that we did, and then the next week those things had been taken away and replaced in a different way, which I'm going to touch on next. But it's important to acknowledge that we are all grieving this life that we once had, that felt like our secure place, how things were, the order of things, we could plan. And right now we're living in uncertainty, and not knowing what the future will hold is very uncomfortable. So part of knowing how to move forward is to first acknowledge the feelings that we're having now. And so I'm going to help you make sense of those by going through the stages of grief according to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. So there's 5 stages of grief: denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So I'm going to walk through those slowly so that you understand what they each mean and what they might be looking like for you right now. So you're experiencing grief globally just because of the whole change and of everything in the world right now. But on top of that grief, you're experiencing the grief of missing your choir community and that practice and all of those beautiful feelings that you experience when you connect with your choir community. So you're experiencing grief on top of grief, essentially. So denial is the first stage of grief. So that can look like, at the very beginning, like, oh, this virus won't come to our country. This social distancing won't last long. This will go away. That can be maybe what denial looks like. Anger is the next stage. So as I'm going through these, I want you to just think what stage you might be at, because I'm going to ask you to share that as we move forward. So just keep that in mind. Like where could you be right now? Also remembering that these stages, they're not always linear. Like you might move from one to the next and then slide back to denial on some days. Like, nope, there's no such thing as COVID-19. It's not happening, right? Because that's how our body protects us. That's how our brain protects us. So denial is that first stage. Stage 2 is anger, right? The anger that you might be feeling about this isn't fair. I'm seeing people who are suffering. I'm seeing businesses that are closing. I'm angry that I can't sing. Singing isn't hurting anybody. Like when you sing, it brings you so much joy. It's helping, it releases all of these wonderful things in your body. How can that be a bad thing, right? There could be anger about it. So That could be what anger looks like. The next stage is bargaining. So the bargaining stage of grief is often when we have like an inner bargaining happening with ourselves. If I stay home, then, oh, it's starting to really pour out there. It's this cozy rainy day. If I stay home, then this virus will go away. Or if I stay home, then we'll be able to get back to our regular life sooner. If I find ways, this is a big one, if I find ways to, maybe sing in other ways, maybe if I do these Zoom calls, I'm bargaining, I'm able to kind of find a way to do what I love to do, but in a different way. That could be a form of bargaining. This is a big one. I want to draw your attention to it is if I find ways to control small things in my world, then it will make me feel better or it will get easier. So ways of finding control could be wanting to clean your house a certain way or really have everything organized. I know for me, I'm wiping my counters a lot more lately. I want to feel like I have control over something like as small as it possibly is. So that's what bargaining can look like. So the fourth stage of grief is depression. And depression is often a feeling of heaviness and you might want to be sleeping more. It's a realization that this isn't going away. This isn't changing. I don't know how to do this. I feel heavy, like I said, maybe some sadness. And depression can make everything else in your life feel a little bit heavier. So just even like simple things, maybe getting out of bed feels a little bit more difficult, or getting outside to go get groceries might feel a little overwhelming. That's what depression can look like. And then after depression, we move into acceptance. So acceptance is when this is happening and I will learn and grow from this, and I will find a new way to adjust. And it's a way of integrating the grief and integrating the change into your personal story. Now, what's important about these 5 stages is that if you think about if somebody you love passes away and you are going through the grief of losing that loved one, how would you be treating yourself during that grief? Would you be, starting a new business? Would you be upset with yourself if you're not taking up a new hobby? Would you be going more slowly? Would you be journaling more? What would you be doing if you had lost a loved one? I want you to think about that, because that's how you need to be treating yourself as you are grieving what is happening in the world, and then also grieving this loss of what choir looks like. So just finding that gentleness for yourself in your own process. So I'm going to just go through those stages again. So we've got denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. So I'm going to turn the question over to you. What stage of grief do you think you're in right now? And, let me just see here, because I want to see here. I'm seeing some of your questions. Bargaining, acceptance. I see one of your questions. Keep going. I thank you for sharing. Keep going. So the question is, will everyone go through all of the stages? And like I said, it's not always totally linear. You might jump. It might even just be on one day you have a really low depressive day, and then you're back into the bargaining, or there's not a clear beginning and a clear end. And oftentimes grief really takes you by surprise. Yeah, I love how you guys are naming this. A bit of depression, a bit of acceptance, heading towards acceptance, right? I see this is, it's a journey, right? It's helpful to recognize that it's a process. Most days in acceptance now. Yeah. Between depression and how to accept this new world. Every time it's a canceled concert date, there's more sorrow. Absolutely. The grief is overwhelming at times. Depression some days, sadness overall. Yes. Yeah, it is. It is a bit of everything. It really is a bit of everything. You know, it's so beautiful that you are able to name where you are, and it's really empowering to be able to do that as well. If anyone would like to share, like I'd love to hear someone share on video, and if you do, just click the hand raise button. The hand raise button is there, right? I'd love to just hear someone's experience of maybe where they are in their stage of grief. Yeah, feeling up, 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 and then realize that it's all been lost. Not knowing what's ahead and for how long. This worry that choir won't ever come back. Yeah, I totally understand feeling that. Feeling at loss, out of control, not knowing how to handle teaching choir in a way that will help students. Yes, I know for educators and leaders, it's difficult not knowing how to do it right. And
There's a hand raise.
hand raise. Do we have a hand raise?
From Michael Kolla. Hi, Michael. I'm gonna unmute you.
Hi, my name is Mike. I am a music teacher. And
oh, Michael, wait, I want to hear you, and I can't hear you very well.
how about now? Better? Worse?
Better.
Louder. Go more.
Let's put the microphone closer. Sorry, I'm a music educator. I'm a teacher in the Catholic School Board, and my father, he founded a choir 25 years ago, and I'm trying to keep it going. And it's been a struggle just to take a leadership role in this, because as a musician myself, I'm struggling with the loss of music. There's the depression, there's the anger, there's the grief. Mm-hmm. But as a leader in my community and trying to instill that hope into my choristers, that's a whole other layer of you got to be strong, you got to be putting that face forward. And I find that there's the struggle there, just not getting angry anymore and trying to show them that acceptance is something that we need to pursue, and acknowledge the feelings that they have in a positive way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's where my struggle is.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing that. And you're right. It's hard to be a leader at a time when you're processing your own stuff, right? And also like trying to figure it out for yourself, process your own feelings while you're trying to support other people. Hey, I get it in my work too. But what's so important for leaders right now is filling up on your own self-care. You're like exactly what you said. It's a lot to hold everyone's feelings. And yes, you need to be strong for people, but also it's okay for people to see that you're going through your own experience. And as we're sharing here, we know that we're all in it together. And I'm sure you're doing that already, but just giving yourself permission to say like, yeah, this is hard for me too. And this is what I'm trying to do to fill myself up right now. What are you doing that's helping you? Does that resonate, Michael? Yeah. Yeah, because there is no one way. There's no one right way to be doing this. The most right way is to just really feel the feelings and to be taking care of yourself more than ever right now. Just as if you were going through the grieving of a person, it's the same energy. Is there anyone else who wanted to share? Any other hands?
Yes, we have Mary Lou who would like to share as well. I'm going to go ahead and unmute you.
Hi, so I'm also a music educator and a choir director, and I have a teenager and a college-age student. She's an artist, and she's wondering if she'll be able to go back to art school in the fall. And my choir is a church choir of mostly elderly people, and they're wondering, if they'll have anything to come back to, if they'll ever be able to come back. And I really found it interesting when you talked about bargaining, that controlling things is bargaining. My kids were finally out of the house for a week after 3 months with me, and instead of saying, oh, I'm going to look after myself, well, I just threw myself into, how can I make sure that going back to church this week is absolutely safe for everybody? How can I control the space? Where is going to be the best place? Where is everybody going to be safe? And then at the same time, it's the last week of school. How can I assure my principal that we're on top of this, that we know how to make bands safe, we know how to make choirs safe for the fall? How can I communicate with the other music teachers at my school? And I just kind of realized yesterday, like, wow, wasn't this supposed to be the week that I looked after me?
Yes. Oh, you named it. Yes, you do need to look after you. But finding that control was your way of doing that in a way, right? Because there's so much loss of control and so many feelings, taking care of like the members of your choir and your own kids. Like there's so much caregiving happening right now. And I think for people who are leaders and caregivers, it's a lot easier to be taking care of others, because then we don't have to go inwards and really feel what we are probably feeling, because that is where the work is, and that's where it's messy, but that's also where healing is, and that's where we get our strength to support others.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. Okay, I am going to move forward. So if you have your hand raised, don't worry, there's going to be other opportunities to share, but I am going to move forward to the next section, and which is, I know that for many choirs right now, choirs are moving to, some choirs, not all, but have moved to doing Zoom rehearsals and Zoom recordings and getting creative in that way. And what I know, and also as a psychotherapist, I also see clients virtually with video sessions. And what I know, when people are only connecting with people virtually, there's something that's called plausible denial of absence. And I'm going to explain what that means. But essentially, it makes you feel worse rather than better. So I just want to read this. There's a beautiful description of it. So it's like your body is, oh good, everyone can see me, good. So it's like your body is blindfolded. So the constant presence of each other's absence, it deprives our bodies from sensing the physicality, the non-verbal communication that we all have, right? So our minds are tricked into the idea of being together when we're on those Zoom calls, but our bodies know that we're not together. And this dissonance between the mind and the body is what makes people feel really tired. And I even know, I see it especially in my children, and you might relate to this, but like my children do not like doing Zoom calls because it reminds them that they are not with people. It reminds them that they are not connected. So instead of making you feel like you are connecting with people, which is the intention, and of course it's a beautiful intention, but our body knows better, right? It's missing that nonverbal communication that you get when you're with your choir family, when you're whatever, when you're in the office, when you're in church, when you're with a friend, right? Your body knows the difference. And so if you are only communicating via Zoom right now or in these video virtual modalities, you may notice that you feel exhausted and maybe sad and maybe depressed. So in terms of what to do, it is helpful to find ways to still communicate with people that you did before Zoom. So sometimes even a phone call can make you feel more connected to somebody, because that's something that you would only do via audio before. I know maybe choir you cannot do via a phone call, but in terms of connecting with people, because human connection is what we all need. So having a phone conversation with someone is how you would normally communicate on the phone anyways, or even a text, because you're not usually videoing someone and texting, right? You're sending a message or an email. There's something about the video and a lot of it that actually drains the body's energy because of that dissonance between the brain and the body. It's very, very confusing on your psyche. And can you tell me, how have you felt before or during or after any Zoom rehearsals that you've had? Can you leave that in the chat and let me know? I'm curious. Ah, yes, mind versus body. Yes, because sitting next to your friend in choir, you're not sitting next to them when you are on a Zoom call, right? It's so much more work. Oh, the silence afterwards is or you felt tired. Yes, thank you for saying this, Lynn. I burst into tears after our Zoom choir this week. Yes, because your body knows and your brain knows that you're not getting that same connection and you long for that. Humans are herd animals. We want to be together physically. I've cried, disembodied, right? Like feeling not attached to your body, absolutely frustrated because you can't hear the harmony, of course, inadequate. Endurance for Zoom seems to be increasing, but at first it was exhausting. Yep, there's an adjustment. Bonnie says that rehearsals are helpful. The silence afterward is hard, but seeing each other and continuing to work together towards a common goal is very helpful. Absolutely. You know, I would love to hear, what is this, the silence afterwards? Can somebody hop on and share what that means? I would love to know. Oh, hand raise. Raise your hand there in the little button. Zoom rehearsals are frustrating. Elaine, let me know if anyone has a hand raise. You're singing alone and not in community. Yes. So again, it's that reminder. Oh, hello.
Bonnie has her physical hand raised, so I.
Oh, good. I can't see that.
Yes, I can see you. So I'm gonna unmute you, Bonnie. Oh.
Hi there.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi. I think it's that sudden absence. You feel so connected. You're seeing all those familiar faces and you're working towards that common goal, and all of a sudden, boom, everybody's gone. It's like turning the lights out.
Oh, that's the sudden silence after.
That's how I feel. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. It's so abrupt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I totally understand that. Thank you for explaining that.
Yeah. I just saw somebody else say it feels like falling off a cliff. I like that.
Yeah, it's so abrupt, that ending. And is it, because after choir, there's like some social time, right? As you're transitioning to go home. So that piece is missing. Yeah. Oh, wow. Thank you, Bonnie. Thank you for sharing. Wow. And it seems that a lot of people can relate to that. Yes, it's abrupt. Feels like a cliff and you feel really alone. Oh my God, you miss hugs. I miss hugs too. Oh, here's a suggestion from Amy. Our choir has a chat time after. About 10 or 15 out of 70 stay and just chat for up to 30 minutes sometimes. That's great. Hi, Mom. My mom's on this call, you guys. She's so awesome. She says, our director allows for extra time afterwards to socialize. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, no, this is great. You know, and it's helpful. Thank you for sharing your tools and what's working for you, because that social piece, that's part of what the choir community, right? You're not doing it alone, you're doing it together. We are second rate because we're not doing Zoom music. Oh, wait, tell me about this. Judy, Susan, can you share what this means? What does that mean? We're second rate because we're not doing Zoom music? I want to understand that.
It's Judy. Susan commented that she feels sort of second rate because they're not trying to do this. And I just commented, you know, it's a very interesting comment.
Okay, you know, and thank you for saying that. So some choirs have chosen not to do Zoom. That's what you're saying?
Right.
Okay, thank you for saying this, because what is going to work for one person or one choir or one group is not going to work for everybody. And remembering we're all going through this and trying to figure out what's working for us, right? No one is an expert on a pandemic, right? So no one is an expert on what's happening right now in any facet of the pandemic experience, right? So for your choir, and it's important to not compare. That's where I'm going with this, right? Not comparing, like if you're not out there editing Zoom videos and creating a like masterpiece, because that's not what's filling you up right now, that's okay. If that is something that is filling you up and it's making you feel creative and that feels like a fit for you, then that's awesome. So it's not, again, it's not what's right or wrong. there is a big gray area of what's right for each individual person or each community. I hope that helps. I'm just going to read one more thing. Experience depends on the bandwidth and the power of the internet. Oh my gosh, I know it can be very frustrating when the internet isn't good because there can be a time lag, and that's so frustrating musically. It's a steep learning curve in terms of the tech for some people, of course. Oh my gosh, yes, I totally understand. So much to learn after 3 months trying to teach online, and you're just learning. Oh, good, thanks. Thanks, Mara. I'm glad you're feeling included. Yeah, it is. We're all in this together, and I just hope that you can honor where you are in your own process, because there really is no one way. There is not just one right way to go through this experience. Like, just really come back to that grief. When someone is grieving, everyone has their own experience of grief. There's not one way to grieve, okay? So there's not one way to do what we're doing right now. I find it hard to have everyone looking at me during Zoom because I'm an introvert. Yes, Lynn, I think a lot of people relate to that. I'm feeling like, oh, this is so bizarre. Where do I look? Do I look at the camera? It's distracting to look at yourself. I know there's a whole other set of rules and things that come up with virtual meetings, right?
Sorry, Allison, Susan has her hand raised.
Oh, great, thank you.
Susan, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm the one that posted the original, not doing Zoom. Basically because the community choir that I direct decided to just end the season when we had to stop rehearsals. And the university choir I direct was so close to the end that we just did a culminating assignment in place of a concert. So I may be teaching via Zoom rehearsals in the coming academic year. So that's a little stressful to figure out how to make that effective at a university setting. But one thing I did try with my choir was to try to do a kind of a virtual choir audio, because I don't have the technology for a video one, with my community choir and one of the pieces we've been looking at, but only 3 people sent in recordings. So it was just a reminder for me that, you know, not just conductors, but choristers are coming from the same places too. And what may seem like a small task for me and not very daunting might be really daunting for somebody who's not used to hearing their own voice individually. So, you know, I'm just trying to make things as possible and pleasurable for my choir members as possible. But sometimes I just feel that I wish I could do more to help, you know, like I feel like I still want to be a leader and I still want to be a help to the people in my choir, even if we're not singing. So that's kind of frustrating when I feel like there's such a limited amount I can do.
Yeah, thank you for sharing your experience, like feeling like you want to do more and frustration around not knowing how to do that. It's a helpless feeling, right? And I love that you're able to empathize with what your choristers might be feeling, right? It's weird to just only hear your voice, your solo voice, when you're so used to singing together with other people. So you're really balancing. There's always going to be this conflicting emotion, right? Sometimes you can feel like, oh, this is a really great thing. Like I'm figuring out how to do this, but I'm so sad that we're not able to do it the way we're used to doing it, right? You're feeling all those feelings, and I can hear how much you're trying to take care of them and do your best in the situation. Thanks for sharing that. All right, I am going to move into, one choir. When our choir has done virtual choirs, the singing alone is a struggle. And when the final product comes together, it's a beauty and sadness mixed together. That body-mind dissonance. Yeah, Michelle, thank you for sharing that. It's so true, right? It's so nice to have that team effort come together when you're doing it virtually. And of course, the most of all, when you're together in real life. But then when you see it come together virtually, that dissonance, it's so wonderful to see everyone's faces on the screens together in harmony, but it's really sad. It's that reminder again, the deniability of absence, right? That you're not together. I completely understand that. All right, I'm going to move into, I want to read all your comments, but I'm aware of the time. Okay. The Resourceful Church Musician on Facebook has some really simple workshops the past 2 weeks on how to set up a Zoom rehearsal. That's great. Thank you for sharing that, Mary Lou. And Deb says, even though we weren't singing ourselves, our director took us to concerts each week. Oh, I love that. That's so creative. After we finished singing. So you were watching the concerts together, and then you could comment on them. Oh, that's a great idea. Thank you for sharing that. Wonderful. All right, so I'm gonna move into our last section, which is how do you take action? So now that you can understand and name your experience and hopefully make sense of it a little bit more, like understand why you're feeling what you're feeling, and then be able to name those stages to help make sense of it all. I want to give you some like how to take action. Like what do you do now? What do you do with this information? So first, I want you to figure out what stage of grief you're at and go gently with yourself. And remember, not comparing yourself to others is really, really important. And I want you also to check in with yourself, because there will be a point where what does normal grieving look like, and when do we need to reach out and ask for extra support? And if you are finding that you are numbing excessively, so numbing, when I say numbing, I mean numbing your feelings, like not letting yourself feel the feelings. So that can look like watching a lot of TV, because TV or screens or YouTube or whatever social media can really help us escape, and it helps us to avoid our feelings. It's a way of numbing. Numbing can also be, this is a surprising one, can be overscheduling yourself, right? So I think we touched on this earlier of like ways to find control. If you notice that you're really consumed with trying to over control things, that can also be a way of numbing, because that can be a way of avoiding the feelings. We touched on this earlier, right? So caregiving for everyone else can be a distraction, can be another way of numbing. Doing lots of cleaning. And obviously the obvious numbing is excessive alcohol and drug use. But those other forms of numbing, they can slip under the radar sometimes because they can seem acceptable, right? So that's why I want to bring those to your attention. If you're noticing, just check in with yourself and be curious. Okay, wow, have I been letting myself feel the feelings? And maybe I do need to reach out. Because if you are noticing, you are feeling, you're in that state of depression for an extended period of time, whether that's longer than a week or 2 weeks, I would recommend reaching out for support, right? To a mental health practitioner, a registered professional to talk through what you are feeling. So that would be a way to take action. And I really, really cannot emphasize enough that right now, and we touched on this earlier, we need to be filling up on our self-care, right? When you are grieving, when you are going through something emotionally challenging, you need to be taking care of yourself even more, right? So it's like that whole expression of like, you need to put your oxygen mask on first before you can take care of other people. It's true. And if you've been noticing, and I've been noticing this a lot with my clients lately, is that when people have, when we've gotten to this 3-month mark of the pandemic, people hit a breaking point because they could not sustain what they had been doing or expecting of themselves for those 3 months. And then they hit a breaking point. So what I want you to do is think about, okay, how can I make this situation sustainable for myself emotionally? That's the big piece, right? How can I help myself? So how can I pivot from singing in a group to finding something else that gives you the same feelings that singing does? Remember, you listed all those beautiful feelings, and it's not giving up on singing. This is really, really important. This is adding something else to your life that also brings you joy. So you have singing and it brings you so much joy. And now you're going to try and find something that also brings you the same joy, but in a different way, right? That could be like going for walks or teaching yourself to find beauty in simple things. Or I love finding activities that use both the left and right side of the brain, same as singing uses both sides of the brain. And that's why it pulls your full attention. So like things like knitting or woodworking or using your hands or playing piano, or drawing or painting. Those are things that use both sides of the brain and that help to calm your nervous system. So that would be excellent options for self-care. Yeah, so you're not giving up on your singing. You are giving, because right now when you're trying to sing in a different way, it's reminding you of what you're not able to do. So that it can increase the depression. So it's almost like just gently putting that on a shelf if you can, and whatever, if it feels right for you, and focusing your attention on something that can bring you the same feelings. That meditation of the breath. Like, is there something else that puts you into that state? Is it a yoga practice? Is it a Tai Chi practice? Something with breath, like trying to be curious about what fills you up. So what does self-care look like for you? I would love to hear some ideas of self-care and what you're doing right now for self-care. We're going to slowly wrap it up. I am going to leave a link in the chat I have a free self-care video that you can access. And keep in mind that my specialty is keeping parents thriving after having kids. So it is designed to watch with your partner, but the lessons around self-care are still true regardless of where you are in your life journey. So I will leave that in the chat. And I'm going to check in right now and read what you guys are writing about. Oh yes, exercising. Yes, exercising is so good. Knitting, gardening. Oh my gosh, yes. Coloring, playing the piano, biking, just for biking without purpose, just without direction. I love that. Self-compassion practice, letting myself rest. Yes. Taking virtual singing lessons or doing warm-ups daily. Yes, see, you're still getting that breath work in there. Beautiful. Cooking, swimming, long walks with my dog, DIY projects. I love this. Oh, thanks, Judy. It's a nice push for us to find different areas of self-care. Yes, absolutely. Journaling. That's so wonderful. Walking in nature, yoga. I'm loving all of these. These are beautiful. If anyone wants to hand raise and share their experience of self-care, or even something that's been standing out in today's workshop, I would love to hear from you. Other types of music. Yes, Susan, thank you for saying that. It's very true that when you're practicing other forms of singing, it reminds you of what you're not doing. It reminds you of that loss, right? Spending time with my daughter. Yes, who's unexpectedly leaving you because of COVID. Yes, there are silver linings, right? Do we have any hands raised? Because I can't see that. Just let me know, Elaine. Choral recording, listening and singing along. Yes.
Sorry, Allison. We have Mary who is waving with her real hand.
I can't see that, so thank you for telling me. Hi, Mary. Oh, unmute her. Oh, good.
Huh?
I can't hear her.
Hold on, Mary.
Mary, one more time. Sorry, we couldn't hear you.
It's just we were both.
Oh, it works now.
Okay, I'm going to put a little bit of a negative in here, because you were talking about numbing, and when I was making a list of the numbing things. These were some of your things now, your replacement things, and it's so easy for these replacement things to actually be numbing things. I'm just saying, you've got to really sort out in your mind. It can be numbing too.
No, that's a great point. So numbing can be when it's excessive. That's the key point, right? It's when you're not letting yourself feel the feelings. If you're doing something because it's therapeutic and it is a way of healing and a way of letting yourself feel whatever you're feeling and get those same positive feelings that you have when you're singing, that would not be numbing, right? But if you're like excessively cleaning because you're not letting yourself feel joy or happiness or those good positive feelings that come, or even numbing because you don't want to feel the negative feelings that you might be feeling.
So for example, if you're knitting and you knit absolutely everything in sight, you're in trouble. Okay.
No, but you have to check in with yourself. It is going to be different for every person's experience, right? It's so unique to the person, but it's being able to check in with yourself. Like, okay, is this helping me, or am I distracting myself from something? yeah, it is a fine line. It is a fine line, and it's checking in with yourself. And it's going to be different for every person, right? Not comparing what works for someone and not for someone else. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for that. It's a good point. Drawing, knitting, painting, meditation, playing chimes. So we're starting practice in July and do chimes. Oh, that's cool. So you're like starting a new practice. It's not singing. Judy, I watched Schitt's Creek too, and it made me laugh so hard. It's so good. But you know what? It's that I love that you said, but is that numbing? And I think that's a really good question, right? The numbing piece is when you're doing too much of it. Like if you are only doing that every single night for 2 weeks, then that would be numbing, right? But because screen time is especially a danger zone, right? It's great to like, maybe you have like one show you look forward to 1 or 2 nights a week. That would be, I would say, a safe zone. If you're turning to the TV every single night for an excessive amount of time, then that would be when you need to look at, okay, is that excessive? Am I trying to numb and escape too much right now? Yeah. Watching church services and singing along. These are beautiful. These are beautiful. I am going to leave in the chat the link. Sorry, I didn't do that yet. For the self-care lesson, if you would like to do that, I'm going to leave it in there now. It's totally free. Oh wait, this is to Elaine Choi. Hold on. Just give me a second here, guys. To everyone. Okay. So here's the link. This is the self-care toolkit. So I'll put that there for you. So that's in the chat there. If you guys want to download that, it's totally free. It's a little video. You can watch it. It'll give you some ideas of self-care. So as we're winding down, can you tell me, just in the chat, leave me some words. How are you feeling now after we've gone through this process and you've maybe started to make sense of why you're feeling what you're feeling? What has resonated for you? What are you taking away from this workshop today? And if anybody would want to do a hand raise, this is your last chance. This is the time. I'd love to hear from you. Oh,
There's
yes.
a hand raise from Janet. Can I unmute you, Janet?
Yep.
There you go. Oh, hold on, Janet. Sorry.
Hi, Janet.
Can't seem to unmute you, Janet. I'm sorry about that.
Oh.
There you go.
Okay.
Perfect.
Oh, there. Hi.
Hi. Thank you so much. You have just been expressing all of what I've been feeling for the last little while, all of it. And I've been wondering about what I can do. I'm a chorister and I sing in my church choir, and I've just been missing it so much. It is so uplifting and empowering for me to sing. It just elevates my mood so much. And that's why I've been searching online to find like church services where I can sing along with them. I do practice meditation, and I'm really thankful that you're putting the link there for the self-care video as well. I'm a caregiver at the same time as this pandemic is going on, so it's like a double whammy there. So I'm paying attention to my self-care and have reached out for some assistance, which is really good that it's available. So I've been, wondering, what am I going to do about this, not being able to sing, and wondering about the Zoom thing for our church choir or for our choral society. And from what I'm hearing and seeing here, I really appreciate the fact that you said to maybe put that on the back burner for now and find something else that gives me the same experiences, like that gives me the joy and that uplifts me and things like that. So that is just so valuable for me. I just want to thank you so very much. It means a lot.
Oh, you're welcome.
Yeah.
I'm glad that it resonated with you and that you're taking care of yourself. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you.
There was a question from Michael that says, the stages of grief may look different to young children. Any advice? Ooh, that is a larger conversation. Yes, it will come out differently for children depending on how verbal they are and how they are able to express. They might be more physical. It might come out, I mean, I don't know how old your children are. Oh, it's a long call. That is not a short answer. But something to, yeah. With children, I would say give them as much space as possible. So if they're having a freak out about brushing their teeth, then give them that space. And the number one thing you can do with kids is just reflect back what they're feeling. You're upset because you didn't get the blue cup. You're upset because you can't go hang out with your other teenage friends. Reflect back whatever they're feeling, even if it does not make sense to you. They need to know that you are just there to feel their, like, hold their feelings, and whatever the feeling is okay. So that would be my number one thing with kids and with all people, truly, but especially for children. Even if it does not make sense to you why they're freaking out, just reflect back their words and let them feel what they're feeling. All right, you guys. I'm so glad. Plausible denial of absence is exactly what I've been feeling. I'm really glad, Neela, that resonated with you. Good to hear about the stages of grief. And I'm so glad that you're feeling less alone. So I want to say thank you. Thank you for being here today and for making the time. And if you want to reach out, I mean, I am accepting clients virtually. So, and I do offer 15-minute discovery calls to see if we are fit together. So if that's something that you would like to do, you can send me an email. Here, I'll put that here, allisonhouse.com. You can reach out to me if you have any other questions. And I just want to say thank you. Thanks for making this time. And just remember to be gentle with yourself and with this process. This is not going to be a quick, easy fix. And so give yourself a deep breath and just trust the process. All right. Thanks for being here, everyone.
Thank you, Allison. While we're still on this call, on behalf of Chorus Ontario, I want to say a big thank you to Allison. Today, you're talking to a really big group here, and I'm sure we all resonated so much from what you have talked about. Thank you so much for helping us identify and also verbalizing some of the feelings that we have been feeling the last 100 days or plus days. But I'm also extremely grateful for some of the tips and tricks and teaching us how to be gentle to ourselves. So thank you, Allison. And I also want to say a quick thank you to all the participants here today as well. Looking around the grid view here, we see that this is a really big range from choristers, volunteers, and also a lot of conductors in the room. When Allison asked us what singing means to all of us, and just seeing all the words flying around, I don't know about you, but I have to admit I choked up a little bit when I just see all those amazing words flying around and seeing what singing means to all of us. So thank you so much for being here with us today. I'm gonna pass the talking stick to our president, Mark Horanen, and he's gonna tell us a little bit more about Chorus Ontario before we end the day.
Thanks very much, Elaine. And let me add my thanks to you, Allison, for a very inspiring and thoughtful session this afternoon. Really great to be here with all of you and to share in this opportunity. I want to thank also our summer student, Neela, who was helping moderate and was the tech genius behind all of this. So thank you, Neela, for that. And also the programming committee, part of the board who put this program together. Without their help, this session wouldn't have happened. So thank you very much to my colleagues on the board. Just before we leave this afternoon, I'd like to draw your attention to 5 events that are coming up over the next 2 weeks or so. The first of which is on June the 27th. That's this Saturday. And these will run between Saturday, June the 27th and July the 9th. These are going to be 5 regional sessions regional sort of check-in meetings for you to gather in perhaps smaller groups than this to check in and meet with a board member of Choirs Ontario to let us know what you would like to see from Choirs Ontario in the coming months in terms of programming, what would be helpful for you as you think about what your choirs are going to be doing in the fall and beyond. If you're a chorister, what is it that you would like to see from this service organization? So there'll be 5 of these events. They are they are in fact posted on our website, and I've just put up the website site on the chat there, so you can click directly there to see which one of the 5 regional check-ins is closest to you. There'll be 4 based on geography, and then 1 for francophone members of our choral community here in Ontario. Once again, they are open to anybody. You do not need to be a member of Choirs Ontario. You do not need to be a conductor in the province. Everybody is welcome to these sessions, and we hope that you will join us in this. Thanks again for joining us this afternoon, Allison. It's just been a great afternoon. Really wonderful to have these resources and be able to know that we're sharing in this grief, sharing in these difficult days together with so many other people. After all, that's really why we all sing in choirs, isn't it? To be with other people and to create something that we can't do on our own. And so this is just a little reminder of the beauty of that which we do. So thanks, everybody. I wish you all very good health and a happy summer, and look forward to seeing you again. Thanks and bye-bye.
Thanks, bye.